Guardian, we're reading some odd fluctuations in our scans.
Gravity waves. Small for now, but amp them up and they'll rip us apart.
I've got 3 locations where the waves are strongest. Sending you coordinates.
I don't see anything, Sloan, but Did you hear that?
What are you picking up?
It's gone. Maybe I'm imagining things. We'll check your other coordinates.
Do it quick. I don't like what I'm seeing. Not to rush it, but these waves are growing fast.
Get over there and we should be able to track those gravity waves back to their source.
Sloan, you have to hear this.
Oh, I hear it. Amanda's grabbed your data and is mapping the source now.
Source says 3 of them. Go shut them down.
Sloan, it's a ritual, a big one. They really are going to shake this arcology to pieces.
Then let's do the same to them.
this altar down, we stop that horrible noise.
The sooner the better. We're hearing that sound on all sensors now. Feeling it too.
Hey, team, we've torn down the altars.
Then we got a problem. Those must have been transmitters, not the source. Ritual's still going. We're jittering up, down, and sideways over here. I feel sick. Keep it together, girl.
There's a giant crystal in here. It's singing.
Neutralize it.
Singing like the crystal. Are they drawing power from each other?
We're stable again. Whatever you did, it worked. My stomach thanks you.
Got a wild idea. How about you send me that rock for analysis? What do you say?
One big glowy rock coming right up.
Oh, you're a beaut, aren't you? The tests I'm gonna run on you, I wonder how many pistons you can power. Well, Sparrow thrusters, obviously. But what about warp drives or...
I'm sure I'm going to hear all about what Amanda will use that for. What were the Hive doing with it?
My time is yours. Later.
Guardian, the Fallen are bringing in their armory. Again. You'd think they'd know better by now.
Look at those caches. They never learn.
Then teach them a new lesson.
Another walker. What are we up to, Sloan? 16? 60?
I stopped counting some time back. You keep racking them up. We're staying afloat, thanks to you.
scout well. I need to talk this through with the warlock. What do those runes mean?
Hi there.
Fenchurch does the exploring. I make the deals.
Hello, Guardian. Welcome.
Let's get you back out there.
This war is a complicated algorithm, to be certain.
Monarchy's gonna invest in the project.
Some of these files are older than the city itself.
New Monarchy's gonna
That can't
invest
be
in the
right.
project. Dead orbital sales. New Monarchy just wants to take the credit.
Speak to me not of the darkness. I want no part.
I slept rough last night.
You're being reassigned to the South Wall.
The mystery is the thing. You never... There is hope for humanity yet, with guardians such as you.
I have good news. New Monarchy's gonna invest in the project.
That's got to be.
Yes, Guardian, by all means. Let's get started.
Clean up dust, reorganize my inventory.
Hunters, we're getting to you now. Let's go over your exotic armor tier list. If you're new to the series, I judge exotics on many factors, but this is mainly a power-based tier list. Starting with Helms, it's Celestial Nighthawk, a returning Destiny 1 exotic, getting the Great PvE Gunslinger Exotic Award. The main perk reduces the amount of golden gun shots you get down to 1, but that 1 does significantly more damage than usual. This is good for one thing and one thing only: killing bosses or high health targets. That's really about it. It is insanely good for that purpose, and in certain activities, it is very valuable, although it is much more valuable in higher end content. However, Golden Gun in Destiny 2 has very high orb generation potential. It is possible to make 8 orbs of light in a single Golden Gun, so you have to weigh the huge chunk of damage versus generating a ton of orbs for your team. In raid content, orb generation is 2.5 times more valuable than non-raid content, but not having Golden Gun orb generation has never slowed down my team. We've very rarely been in situations where having a few more orbs would have been worth it. In PvP, well, yeah, going down to 1 shot, no matter how powerful the shot, is not going to be worth it. Destiny Item Manager ratings give this a 4.9 out of 5. I would say for PvE that is pretty darn accurate, but as an overall rating, that's a little too high. Foe Tracer is up next, getting the Solid Neutral PvP Exotic Award. The main perk marks a target and gives you bonus damage against low health targets that are marked. In terms of a damage bonus, the benefit starts around 30% of an enemy's health remaining and scales up to about 25% bonus damage at the very end of a health bar. So for moment-to-moment gameplay, you're not really going to see a huge benefit from using this, with the effect being near useless on low-tier enemies, getting slightly better as you fight harder enemies or enemies with larger health pools. But, with the exception of maybe Callus, there aren't too many times where you're going to see a long-term benefit on the damage portion of the perk per encounter, which to me drives down the value. You're not going to have a lot of uptime on the bonus damage in most cases. It'll probably get the most value in prestige activities, but even then, I'd rather have something with a little more team value for prestige mode. It is a passive ability, so you don't need to think about it, which is pretty nice. In PvP, the tracking really shines, allowing you to literally track people through walls for a short time. In 1v1 or even 1v2 situations, this gives you a massive advantage and is what I primarily use the Helm for. Being able to anticipate people coming around corners and getting the first shot on them is really beneficial, especially in trials where things are a little more intense. Having the bonus damage could allow you to secure a kill 1 shot faster as well. Destiny Item Manager gives this a 4.7 out of 5, entirely too high as a general rating. Finally, Knucklehead Radar gets the Complete Redemption Award for going from a terrible Destiny 1 exotic to an actually solid Destiny 2 exotic. The perk keeps your radar up at all times. With the removal of Third Eye from the game as a perk, with the exception of only a couple of weapons, this perk effect can't be replicated in any other way. This now means it is much more valuable to have. If you have trouble managing your radar in PvP, especially in the competitive modes, then this is the exotic for you. I can't begin to tell you how many times I am still able to flank an enemy team without them knowing because they're either 1, oblivious, or more likely 2, they will keep their weapons aimed down sights at all times, which blocks your radar. This exotic gives you the extra information you need to prevent that from happening. In general PvP play, I think this has less value because of how quick play gameplay can flow, but it's still useful there as well. In PvE, there are very few times where you need the radar in such a way, and this does not boost your raw power, so I don't give it a lot of value there. Destiny Item Manager ratings have this at a 4.7 out of 5. That is a little bit high. Moving to gloves, we'll start with Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves, getting the "they're good, but" award for being useful for one specific thing: increasing your reload speed and ready speed with sidearms. If I were to rate these on how effective they were as an exotic perk by themselves, then they're a 5 out of 5. They do exactly what they say they do and do it very well. The problem is that sidearms in PvE are not very powerful compared to other weapons and also have ammo issues. It's not really wise to use a double sidearm loadout, much less a single sidearm in PvE. In PvP, where they're a little more viable, if you're running with 2 sidearms, then yeah, this is the exotic you're going to use. If you're running with 1, then it can provide some moments where it can get you kills because you were faster. How often that actually happens, though, varies from game to game. If you play in a way that promotes heavy sidearm usage, then you're going to make these gloves work for you. Otherwise, you can stay away. Also, these gloves will be as good as sidearms are good at any given time. Destiny Item Manager ratings have these at a 2.5 out of 5. That's actually a decent rating. Then we have the other gloves, Young Ahamkara's Spine, also getting the somehow worse than Destiny 1 award. Your trip mine lasts 20 seconds longer than normal, and it marks any targets hit by it. In PvE, trip mine grenades are probably the weakest of the gunslinger grenades, and most of the time you're not really using them as a trap, you're just kind of throwing them out there for damage. Marking targets also doesn't really matter that much in PvE. This is supposed to be fulfilling an actual hunter fantasy, setting a trap, having a trigger, and then chasing down the enemy, which is cool, in theory. In practice, no. If trip mines were more subtle, then I could see this working out a little bit more, but it's a lot of effort to set everything up, and then having the payout is even more unlikely. And then compared to other exotics, I don't really know how much I'm feeling these gloves. On PC, it's even easier to get rid of trip mines as well. The amount of times I actually got the trip mine to trigger and then chased down my marked target for a kill in about an hour of playing was once. One time. If these gloves still had 2 trip mines, which is what I'm guessing Bungie will do to buff them in the future at some point, then they'll be a little bit better, but in their current form, I cannot recommend them. Destiny Item Manager has them at a 2.5 out of 5. Again, that is even a bit high. Moving to chest armor, Dragon's Shadow gets the alright neutral PvP exotic award. Your weapon handling speed and movement speed is increased for a short time after dodging. The buff actually lasts a pretty decent amount of time, 10 seconds, which gives good value considering your dodge is on a pretty short cooldown. It would be nice if the buff from this chest piece was actually shown in the UI somewhere. In PvE, I think there are far too many good exotics out there for me to really recommend this. Handling speed and movement speed don't really matter as much in PvE. It could help for escaping some bad situations, but that doesn't really do enough for me personally. The value of this exotic is going to be in PvP for more aggressive players. Handling and movement speed matter much more in PvP. But if you're not using your dodge a lot, if you're not using it effectively, or if you're not aggressive, then I don't know how much I can really recommend this. It is going to take a little bit getting used to in terms of figuring out how to fit this into your playstyle. I am terrible with using my dodge, so for me, I'm not using this simply because I won't be able to utilize its benefits as much as something else, nor do I really feel its effects that much, if at all. I know that I'm probably massively undervaluing this chess piece, but to me, I'm personally just not feeling it. Destiny Item Manager ratings have this at a 4.3 out of 5. I would say that it's maybe capable of reaching that if you utilize it very well, but for the average player, I don't think it's going to be as good. Lucky Raspberry is next, getting the, you know what, it's not actually that bad award for being a decent Arc Strider option. The main perk has your Arc Bolt chain farther, and if you hit something, you have a chance of getting the cooldown to refresh instantly. I am a believer in Arc Bolt grenades again, especially after playing on a Warlock with Arc Web in Trials of the Nine. People love stacking up, and tagging 2 or more people can really scatter them around. That extra chain length can really come in handy for those moments. In PvE, it's easy to tag a whole bunch of enemies with Arc Bolt, and so the odds are much greater that you're going to get it to proc again. Of the 3 grenades for Arc Strider, it's one of the better ones, plus it's on a shorter cooldown, so investing in it isn't a terrible idea. But PvP, specifically competitive modes where people tend to stack up, is where it'll really shine if you get it to proc for you. Being able to dish out damage like that is incredibly lethal, but it's all about taking chances. Are you willing to sometimes get a proc and then sometimes not? Is it worth that extra proc every so often versus a more consistent exotic? That is a very difficult question to answer. All that being said, Arc Strider is probably the worst of the 3 subclasses for PvP right now due to their super being kind of weak. So I need to take points off for the lack of Arc Strider love at the moment. Destiny Item Manager community ratings have it at a 4.1 out of 5. That's a little bit high. The last of the chest armor is Raiden Flux, getting the one of the best exotics in the game award. Quick attacks with your staff increase damage output and the duration of Arc Staff. I cannot praise this exotic enough for how good it is at ad clearing. I know it's an exotic that only affects your super, and historically,